Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. We were all crashing at a friend's house in southern Arizona. Her place had a reputation among us. Strange things always seemed to happen there. That night, we were celebrating her birthday, and as the sun dipped behind the horizon, we were hanging out in the backyard on the porch when someone suddenly pointed toward the brick fence and screamed. She said she had just seen a bald white head peek over the top of it. Two of us rushed over and looked, but there was nothing. We laughed it off, thinking she imagined it. But that was only the beginning. We lingered outside for a bit longer, still joking about the creepy sighting, and eventually decided to glance over the fence again. As we did, we heard fast, scraping movements on the other side, just out of sight. Again, we brushed it off with jokes and went back inside. Later, we returned to the backyard, and almost instantly, someone spotted the head again, this time, from a different section of the fence. At first, we assumed it was just nerves playing tricks, but then more of us started seeing it too. A pale head, hands, part of a back. That's when panic really started to creep in. As we slowly backed toward the house, one of our friends stayed frozen in place. She didn't say a word. She just stood there staring ahead, scaring the rest of us half to death before finally moving. One of us grabbed a broom, thinking it might help, but that ended in disaster and she quickly lost her broom privileges. We kept spotting white shapes moving, just flashes of what we'd seen before. Then, someone who had been inside earlier came back out, and we all jumped at once. As we stood there talking, trying to calm down, the sightings continued. Shapes. Flickers. Shadows. Until finally, two of our friends froze and said they heard something growling. Not a joke. Not pretend. They were serious. That was it. We all bolted inside and locked the doors. Hearts racing. Breathing fast. We tried to make sense of what had just happened. The only explanation we could come up with was that there was a pale, bald man crawling around outside. And strangely, that made us feel better. Like having a name for it made it less terrifying. Maybe we were just a bunch of tired teenagers with wild imaginations. Or maybe we really saw something out there. Something that didn't belong. It's been years, but what happened at that summer camp still lingers in my memory. Back in the mid-2010s, I was sent to a language camp in southern Germany, tucked deep in the Alps near Munich. The place was isolated, surrounded by mountains and thick forests. The only way in or out was a bus stop across a wide lake, next to a hotel and an old abandoned church. There was barely any phone signal, and the Wi-Fi barely worked. Most days, we had half a bar, if we were lucky. The camp itself had 6 staff members and around 30 students between early and late teens. I was in the younger group and shared a room with a mix of Americans, Russians, and Australians. Most of our time was spent hiking for hours, swimming in the freezing lake, shooting arrows, and sitting around campfires. Those early days were perfect. Until the day everything changed. One morning the rain was relentless and the wind was howling. The fog rolled down into the valley like waves. The temperature barely climbed past 10 degrees, but for some reason we still went hiking. No one questioned it. The hike up the mountain was miserable but uneventful. Things only started to feel wrong during the descent. I kept getting this gut-deep feeling of being watched, like something was just behind me. But I pushed it aside and told myself it was in my head. Back at camp, I told one of my roommates about it, but he brushed it off. Later that evening, after the rain had finally stopped, we all gathered near the fire pit. The fog had returned, rolling over the lake and across the tree line. One of the older boys, Mike, had a powerful flashlight and started shining it into the trees. A few of us took turns using it for fun. I grabbed it, swept the beam from right to left, and muttered a joke under my breath. Imagine if something just walked out of the woods. That's when I saw it. A pale shape was moving along the edge of the forest, walking calmly as if it didn't care we were watching. At first, I thought it was a trick of the fog. Then Mike yelled and pointed at it too. The figure stopped and turned its head toward us. Its eyes glowed yellow. Not like the reflection of light. They glowed on their own. Its arms were long and hung low like an ape, swinging near its knees. The body was slim but muscular, like something built to run and climb. And then it ran. I have never seen anything move that fast. It bolted up the hill and vanished into the woods in a matter of seconds. It moved faster than any animal I've ever seen. The entire camp could have been gone in moments if it had wanted to. A staff member ran to get help, but none of the phones worked. The rest of us stood frozen, unsure if we were dreaming. When the staff finally returned, they ordered us inside. Doors and windows were locked. Nobody was allowed to step outside after dark. It was nearly night by then, and we spent the rest of the evening huddled in our rooms. They checked every student to make sure we were all accounted for. There were tapping sounds on the roof all night and rustling outside the windows, but nobody dared to look. Morning came and the courtyard looked like a storm had passed through. Twigs and rocks were scattered everywhere. But there was no storm. That day, the rules changed. No more long hikes. No more wandering off. We had to be in groups of 6. Some kids packed their bags and went home early. Others, like me, stayed until the end but never quite felt safe again. The following year, I returned to the camp, thinking it would be different. It was. A tall electric fence now surrounded the entire perimeter. It turned on every evening until morning. I got shocked by it a few times by accident. The staff said it was to keep cows out, but in all my time there, I never saw any cows anywhere near that forest. Cameras were installed around the camp. And now, the curfew was much earlier. That summer passed without anything strange happening. But something had definitely changed. The place felt more like a fortress than a camp. Whatever we saw that night, the staff knew it was real. They just never talked about it. In the shadowed hills of northwestern North Carolina, the caves stretch beneath the ground like veins. My husband once encountered something years ago that never left him, and now that we live across the street from where it happened, I find myself constantly checking the locks. His old home sits at the edge of 10 acres of forested land, a place where a clear stream flows from deep within the mountain. One night, long ago, he and his partner were asleep in the bedroom at the back of the house. The French doors faced the woods and opened out to the quiet backyard. He awoke suddenly, no noise, just a strange instinct that pulled him out of sleep. Through the glass, he saw them, 2 glowing red eyes drifting past, high above the ground. Moments later, the door creaked open on its own, and the entire room was filled with a strange vibration. He sat up to scream, but no sound came out. The air felt thick, like everything around him had been muted. His cat hissed at the edge of the bed, fur on end. His partner didn't move. The vibrations grew heavier, pressing against his chest, and he collapsed onto the bed. When he opened his eyes again, he was lying face down, head turned toward the edge of the mattress. He couldn't move. Inches from his face, something began to rise. It wasn't clear at first. It shimmered like heat waves, completely out of focus, as if it didn't belong in the same space. He couldn't see it properly, so he stopped trying. Instead, he unfocused his eyes and watched through the edge of his vision. That's when it became real. Brown and green, its skin looked rough and scaly, like weathered stone. Its face was worn, almost ancient, with pits and marks across its surface. Its eyes were burning red, and when it opened its massive mouth, it gave him a wide, eerie grin. It seemed amused, as if proud that he had figured out how to look at it. The vibration started again, deeper this time, and the creature slowly lowered itself out of view. Everything went black. He came to hours later. The light had shifted, the house was still. His body felt drained, and when he sat up, he realized his back was covered in rows of red marks. They looked like tiny punctures, as if he'd lain on a bed of nails. His partner saw them too, confused and concerned, but had no memory of anything strange during the night. Even now, he swears there was no fear in that moment. No panic. No emotion. Just a haunting emptiness and the sense that something had wanted to take him, but didn't. Whether out of mercy or mistake, he never found out. We live nearby now, on the same stretch of land. That mountain stream still runs behind the house, coming out from somewhere deep underground. The idea that something could be traveling through those caves chills me more with each passing year. Especially when I think about the stories of people who vanish near cave systems, with no trace left behind. It makes you wonder what else is watching. What else lives beneath our feet? Back in Puerto Rico, long ago, a few friends and I had just finished playing basketball in a nearby suburb. It was already dark, the streets were quiet, and we started heading back to our neighborhood. There were two ways home. One was the shortcut through an abandoned paintball park and an open field, which only took about 10 minutes. The other was the long route, brightly lit with houses and endless streetlights, but it added at least 20 more minutes to the walk. Like always, we took the shortcut. But something was off that night. The usual background noise was missing. No insects. No distant cars. Just dead silence. It felt heavy, like the air was holding its breath. One of my friends made a joke about how creepy it would be to play with a Ouija board right there in the field. We all told him to shut up, trying to laugh it off, but we were tense. As we got closer to the entrance of the park, the feeling grew worse. We were still a bit away when we all heard it deep, thunderous stomping coming from behind us. It didn't sound like a person. It sounded massive. Each step shook the ground under our feet. We turned around. At first, we thought it was just a shadow. But then we saw it more clearly. A creature was running at us, gray and hunched, with glowing red eyes that barely pierced through the darkness. Its shape was hard to describe, like nothing we had ever seen. Not human. Not animal. Just wrong. We didn't wait. All 5 of us ran, hearts pounding, lungs burning, until we burst out of the field and back into the street. Just past the road, there was a small section where you could still see the open park. We all turned back to look. Those red eyes were still there, watching us from the dark. The next day, we tried to explain it. 4 of us remembered everything clearly. The sounds. The creature. The eyes. We talked about it for hours, but none of us could come up with anything real. One of those friends is gone now, passed away a few years later. And I still have to go through that area when I visit my family on weekends. Every time I do, especially after sunset, the memory comes rushing back. I avoid looking into the field. I don't want to see those eyes again. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.